It's April 1st, 2021. This is Roqe. She is a Swedish-Iranian singer who came to fame when she brought the house down as a contestant on the Gugush Music Academy. But now she's made her focus the plight of women in developing countries and in Iran in particular. Arghavan will join us from Stockholm to discuss her book, her role as Swedish UN Ambassador for Women, and her global project called Artem. But first, she is a rising social media presence due to her very funny meditations on being an English girl coming to terms with her Iranian background. Kimia Yousefi, or Kimia as she's known, joins us from London to give her take on being Persian, plus a new edition of It's All Persian to Us with Kian. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode number 98 of Roqe. Nabado hashed, Kian.
Yes, thank you, Jian.
You're welcome.
A lot.
Just 2 shows away from our 100th and our 1 year anniversary. We're about to turn 1 year old. Our 100th show next week. We have a very special guest for that show. We're looking forward to that. Welcome to those of you listening around the world, in Toronto, in Toulouse, in Tehran, in Turin, in Toledo, Tabriz, Tulsa, Taipei, Tokyo, Tashkent, and Calgary. Durud bar shoma, khosh omadin. Hope you're all doing okay. Hope you are mizun. Hope you're ready for another edition of Roqe. Big show today. Big show. We are on an ongoing mission to build a new audiovisual encyclopedia of Iranian diaspora identity. We're coming to you on Spotify, SoundCloud, Instagram, Taipei, Tulsa, Tabriz, Toledo, iTunes, Castbox, Telegram. If you like to see some visuals with Roqe, switch over to our YouTube channel right now. And if you like your Roqe descriptions and bulletins in English and in Persian and Farsi, check us out on Telegram. Hi, Kian.
Hi,
The fabulous Kian.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well. Coming up in about 45 minutes, or maybe about an hour from now, Arghavan. She of the lovely voice. She captured the imagination and attention of millions of Iranians around the world and in Iran when she performed on Gugush Academy. Do you remember Gugush Academy? This was about 10 years ago. It was like an American Idol of competition, but with Gugush as the judge, or playing a prominent role there. So Arghavan was part of that. She becomes very well known. Then she pivots and has since then dedicated her life to being an advocate for women in Iran and around the world. Looking forward to speaking to her. Apparently she's also just recently had COVID.
Oh, yeah.
In Norway or in Pakistan. She's been traveling, so hope she's okay. We'll get to her in Stockholm. Arghavan coming up. Before that, something a little different. Kimia Yousefi. Kimia is what she goes by on her Instagram page. She's this English woman. I know you know her stuff. You've been following her on Instagram. Well, she's in her early 20s, and I love what she's been doing on Instagram and on TikTok, exploring and rediscovering her Persian background. She's very funny. So she's not won any huge awards. She is not someone with some riveting story about escaping Iran during the revolution, because she wasn't alive during the revolution. But she tells these stories on social media about the daily plight of being a Persian girl in the UK, and it's really compelling stuff. And obviously it's connecting with hundreds of thousands of Iranians in Iran and around the world. We've so often heard from people saying, why do you only have big celebrities or award winners on your program? Well, here's someone who's doing her bit to bridge the cultural gap, and she's not a huge star, not yet. I'd say she's going to be. She's really quite a character. She's got a law degree, but she's doing these funny videos. Kimia Yousefi, Kimia, coming up. Looking forward to that. Hello, Captain Reza.
Hello, sir.
You come with. You've gone full Taliban when it goes to the beard. That's
You see?
I mean, I don't know what's going on.
It's doubled in size since Monday.
It's almost like a paste-on beard. Like it's like a really big beard.
Like a fake
get
beard.
outta
Yeah.
Like Leslie Nielsen.
I fear I'm going to see like YouTube videos of him with like religious edicts or something.
No, but it seems to be very popular amongst certain ladies.
Oh, you're getting good reaction to your beard?
From one person who's the most important review ever, and that's why I'm wearing my beard like this.
Okay.
And that would be my girlfriend's, who's encouraging me to keep growing it and growing it.
Is that
and growing
right?
it.
She
I
wants
swear
you to grow a full-on Jack Dorsey.
The long,
yes.
Jack Dorsey
Really?
is the goal. Yeah, Jack Dorsey, for people who don't know,
Twitter CEO.
is the CEO of Twitter and got a long.
Has a Gandalf-like beard.
Like Santa.
Well, you look
Ugly.
You
Come
you
on
look
and
like
say.
a stereotypical terrorist. I mean, it's beautiful. It's nice to see it. You are undoing the stereotypes
man.
because you're such a good man.
That's right.
People will see you and go, "Oh, that's not what a terrorist looks."
Yeah, and maybe
He's a good man.
Maybe one day they cast me as the lead romantic
Friendly
love
terrorist?
interest
That's
with
right.
the long
You are
beard.
untangling the stereotypes.
That's
Good
right.
man.
That's right.
And hello, Groovy Shaya.
Hi, عزیزم.
باعث افتخار
That's
باعث افتخارم.
Yeah, باعث افتخارمه.
I
I mean باعث افتخارم هست.
باعث افتخارمه که با شما کار میکنم.
عزیز دلم متقابل این هست.
مخلصیم.
شاکرتم.
So now, Shaya, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you, when I speak Farsi like that, when I speak Persian, have you ever judged me based on my accent?
No, never.
Well,
No.
you're a nice person. Do you feel like you've ever been judged based on the way you speak English?
My English, honestly, I'm judged by Iranian, not non-Iranian.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
Iranians judge
Yes,
you?
yes.
Based on what?
They are judging me that maybe I'm not educated people, that I'm speaking English in that way. But
So interesting. So you haven't got that from English-speaking people. You've got that from other Iranians.
yeah, from,
I was thinking for our Clubhouse Roqe Town Hall tomorrow night. Every Friday night we do the Roqe Town Hall, 8 o'clock Eastern. That's sort of Toronto, New York time. So figure out what time that is for you guys out there. But we do this town hall on Clubhouse, which is the new app where it's audio and there's these rooms, a chat room basically. And we do the Roqe Town Hall. I was thinking for tomorrow night of asking the question, are you judged based on your accent? And this is something that's germane to a lot of Iranians who are sensitive about whether they have an accent, how deep is the accent, how do people see you? If you have are you seen as less educated or something, as you've just said? And I find that in speaking Farsi the way I do, in Persian with my dumb accent, that people don't, at least I worry that people don't know that I'm a thinker, or that I can, that what my vocabulary might be in English if they just hear me speaking in Persian. So the question around this came up because producer Susan last week I was saying, how come you don't join us on Clubhouse? And she was saying, I'm a little nervous about it. And she said, I don't feel comfortable people hearing me with my accent. Because I feel like they'll judge me based on my accent. So I thought that was an interesting topic for us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
And it's something that Kimia Yousefi, maybe I'll bring it up in the interview with her. It's something that she has deconstructed in some of her videos, that she talks about both Iranians and the kind of course, within the Iranian community, there's different accents too, depending on which city you come from, and people are judged based on that. And so it opens up a lot of questions. So we'll get to that. Clubhouse tomorrow night. If you're not on Clubhouse yet, you do need an iPhone, but if you can join, and then you can find me, you can find Roqe Media on Clubhouse, and we'll see you there tomorrow night. Friday night, that is, at 8 p.m. when we have our regular town hall. By the way, tomorrow is also a birthday.
Oh.
Do you know whose birthday it is?
It's not yours.
It's not my birthday.
It's not Reza's. Is it? No, it's not Shaya's. Shaya's birthday is
it's actually the birthday of someone who's in the Roqe family.
I know. Am I allowed to say?
Yes.
I know, though. Oogie.
It's Oogie's birthday. My little boy, Oogie. I have a French bulldog named Oogie. He's brilliant. He's tahsil karde. I mean, he is. He's been to a number of schools. You know, and he turns 3 tomorrow. You know, so I've been preparing, getting gifts. We're gonna have a little birthday party for him, and this week I think Reza knows this story because he saw Oogie earlier this week. But I have a friend who has taken Oogie to babysit him a few times. You know, like I'm a single dad, I've got Oogie, and sometimes it's like a real relief for somebody to take Oogie. Even he's a young lad, he's 3 years old tomorrow. You know, he requires a lot of attention. I got to take him out a few times a day. We go running together, whatever. Very in shape French bulldog, by the way, but you know, he requires a lot of attention. So it's a relief when somebody, and I'm so grateful to this friend who once in a while, she loves Oogie and she says, and she's got kids and they play with Oogie. And so she took Oogie on the weekend. And now you may have heard that coconut oil is good for dogs. That is, some people consider coconut oil good for dogs. Have you ever heard that?
I didn't know that, no.
You know nothing about dogs,
I don't
right?
have a dog.
Yeah, right.
I've never had a
But
dog.
if you did, you would know that there's some controversy about this. Is it really good? Is it not good? Is it good for their skin? Does it help with their diet? Whatever. So this friend of mine had taken Oogie at the weekend and texted me and said, by the way, do you want me to, use some coconut oil with Oogie? Because that would, I'm assuming that this was in an effort to be helpful. You know, she wants to take care of young Oogie, and I think, oh, it's fabulous. Thank you so much. I said, of course, that's lovely. And this person has been very caring about Oogie, so I assume that, and I think she's had dogs before, so I just assume she knows what she's doing with coconut oil. Now, let me tell you that when it comes to dogs and coconut oil, the main application of coconut oil is to put a very little bit in the food. Like the dog, you put a little bit on the kibble, of maybe like a quarter of a teaspoon or something like that. Now, in some cases, you can take a little bit of the coconut oil, rub it in your hands, so there's not very much, right? And then apply it to the dog's coat. Like you kind of you massage the dog, and that's to help with dry skin. It's a very small amount. Okay. Well, I get Oogie back on Monday. You see where this is going. I mean, this dog looked like, those Bollywood stars that are greased down with the like a 1950s rocker, he was actually wet. She apparently thought that what she's supposed to do is bathe Oogie, is drench Oogie, unbeknownst to Oogie, in coconut oil. So, and the first thing I go to pick him up, and it's outside. She's handing over, and I look at him. I'm like, "What's different about Oogie? Like, did he just have a bath or something?" His coat is a little darker, and he's like, it's wet and greasy, kind of like. I'm like, "What's going on?" I don't notice the smell until we come in, and I bring him up to the studio, to my office here, and I'm like, what's going on? This dog reeked of this combination of coconut oil and whatever she put on this, and he knows, right? I mean, it's like with the time with the rasu, he knows that something, he's kind of looking at me like, sorry, Dad, not my fault, a drenched Oogie in this coconut oil, and slowly I see Captain Reza and Savi Roham, everybody usually says hi to Oogie, and they can't, they touch him, and then they have to go wash it. He's greasy, he's wet,
Okay, did you give him a bath?
On his birthday week, Oogie, and Oogie, poor Oogie, I could tell he thought that he'd done something wrong. He kind of had the look on his face when he, when he gets excited and tinkles a little bit. And I'm like, Oogie, did you do that? He's got that, and he's like, kind of looking at me. He was just soaked in coconut oil.
So funny.
I called my friend and I was like, what did you think that you're supposed to pour coconut oil all over this dog? And she's like, yeah, I guess it was a bit much. And, I mean, she was very kind about it. She offered to take him back and wash him and, but it was another Oogie disaster. And on his birthday week, I just felt so bad for him. So we got him cleaned up, and tomorrow it's going to be Oogie's 3rd birthday.
That's cute.
Sweet.
Hey, we've launched our patrons page. And we'd love your help. If you're a listener of Roqe, if you like what you hear, you support our content, or you appreciate our platform dedicated to this connective tissue of Iranian diaspora identity, $10 a month or $5 a month is helpful. It really is. It takes you a second. You go to our website, roqemedia.com, and you click on support us. You press support us. Roqemedia.com, $5 or $10 a month. You become a patron of Roqe, and we crowdfund this show, and we really appreciate when you guys sign up. We see you on the list, and we thank you for it. All right, Captain Reza, Groovy Shaya, The Fabulous Keon, by the way, a new installment of It's All Persian to Us.
Yes.
Coming up right after Kimia, right? And Arghavan in about an hour from now. But let's get to our first guest. My first guest today is an English girl with a law degree who also happens to be very funny. And in recent years, she's been getting back in touch with her Persian roots, and she's taken to TikTok and Instagram, where she's become very popular, reflecting on Persian culture, untangling stereotypes, and teaching English and Farsi words in a very humorous way. Take a listen to this.
In Persian, we don't say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. We say, بابا چه غلطی کردیم و از خوردم. یه کاری انجام بده آدم. And I think that's quite aggressive but beautiful.
The beeps added by her, by the way, not by us. A little taste of Kimia Yousefi from her Instagram page, Oh Kimia. So she left Iran at 6 years old, grew up mostly around English folks, and only recently, in her early 20s, started to reconnect with her Iranian background. Now she's developing a huge audience around the world and in Iran for her very funny videos, her skits, her reflections on our culture as she shares her adventure of learning to be Persian in the diaspora. Right now, Kimia Yousefi joins me from London, England today. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very happy to have you on the program. I love that you went and got a law degree like Tahsil Karde, and now you're making funny videos on the internet. That's a Persian parent's dream.
I know. Honestly, I didn't even think that would even happen. I guess the pandemic and the whole coronavirus does a lot of things. It makes you do things differently in your life, basically. But I'm glad I actually am in this place, and I'm where I am at the moment. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I posted some of the videos I have.
Where you are in the moment is actually in your boss's office at the sweet shop in London that you work at.
It's not a sweet shop.
What is it?
It's it's a luxurious Persian lounge.
Okay.
This is what my boss likes to call it, and it is. It's really nice inside. I actually put a video of it on my Instagram the other day, and everyone were like, oh, Kimia jun kojai omadi Iran? And I'm like, no, it's my boss's Persian lounge, basically.
But I bet when your parents introduce you, they say in law khunde, they really push the law part rather than the working in the Persian lounge.
You know what? My mum and dad, they're quite different. My mum, she would say, oh, she's a law graduate, actually. This is just a temporary job. She's a law graduate. But my dad, he's just so chilled. He's so relaxed. He's like, oh, it's okay. Whatever makes you happy. My dad has changed a lot, I think, since obviously being in England.
Wow. That's very comforting to have an understanding parent like that. I do have to note that many of the guests we have on this program are folks who came from Iran in recent years, and they're usually very fluent in Farsi and just getting fully comfortable in English. You, like me, are someone who grew up in the diaspora who is just getting comfortable with her Farsi. In fact, I think your Farsi might actually be more dodgy than mine, which is quite an accomplishment. But I've heard your parents didn't actually encourage you to speak Farsi when you were growing up.
when I came here at like 6 years old in Stoke, where I used to live, there wasn't many Iranian people. The Iranian community was very, very small. My friends were all British. My mum used to speak to me in English at home, and my dad was at work most of the time, so I didn't actually speak to him a lot. That's why I forgot Farsi and I forgot how to read Farsi and everything.
But hang on a second. You were in Iran until you were 6 or 7 years old. Was that not enough of a training ground for you to speak fluent Farsi?
You know what? I'm going to be completely honest. I feel like I was like drunk throughout my whole childhood. Like I don't know how to say this. This is just an example I'm using. I'm not saying I was actually drunk.
Right.
My parents took good care of me when I was a child. You know, I can't remember much at all from back then. At all, honestly. The only thing I can remember from my childhood is probably like Kola Qirmezi. And my mum probably taking me to my cello lessons from Kalash to Tehran, and a fast food by our place. I can't remember much. Even Iranians that actually have come here for like 4 or 5 years, I've seen myself that, sometimes they forget some of the Iranian words and everything. Right. So imagine someone coming here from a very young age.
By the way, you mentioned taking cello lessons. I didn't mention this in the introduction, and you kind of tend to downplay this, but you're actually a great musician too. You play the piano.
Thank you.
And there's a video, I can't remember on one of your platforms, that I saw of you singing, and I think you're kind of joking around or something, but you've got a great voice. I mean,
thank you so much.
What happened to music? Is that something you wanted to pursue and then stopped or something?
You know what, the thing is, music has always been what I absolutely love. Learned it from my dad. There's like videos of me that I can't remember doing, but there's videos of me, of my dad playing the sitar and me singing, what was it called? Morghe Sahar.
Sure.
That song. Yeah, I was singing that with my childlike voice and everything. And I think from a young age, I've really been into music. And then, my mum, she took me to loads of cello lessons, and then because I was forced into cello, you're a child, you always want to go against what your parents say. I kind of put cello aside and wanted to do piano, so I went to piano lessons instead, and I think piano must be one of my favorite instruments. I
like how your version of being rebellious was to play the piano. I thought you were going to be like, so I was like, screw you parents, I'm going to be a drummer, I'm going to play the electric. It's like, so then I decided to take classical piano to be a rebel.
Honestly, I mean, this is the only rebellious thing you can do with Persian parents. You can't do any more than that. You can't step over the line, let's be honest.
Do you remember any of Morghe Sahar?
I just know Morghe Sahar, Taj Sahar Khan, something like that. I don't know. I just know Morghe Sahar. That's it. That's the only bit I can remember.
That's very good. That's very good, Kimia.
Yeah.
So what was the precipitant more recently then in your 20s to reconnect with Farsi and Persian culture?
The thing is, my dad, he basically, all of us really got into, finding some Persian friends, and we started entering the Iranian community whilst, well, I say we, but I was at uni when, my parents actually did this. Obviously, when I come back from uni, everything's changed. Suddenly, there's loads of people in our house, mehmuni, partying, dancing all the time. And I'm just this the singular tak budam. And I was like, this girl that's just come back from university, she knows nothing and she can't connect with anyone and everything. And I was like, they're like saying these jokes between them, then inside jokes, and oh, remember when we said this? Oh, can you remember this show? And I used to just be in the conversations like, I don't understand any of this. And then obviously, I got in a relationship with someone who's also Iranian as well. So that's when I just decided, I was like, I have no idea of this Persian culture. I don't know anything about the Persian culture either. And, I want to reconnect with my roots. I want to be
hang
able
on
to
a second. When you say you know nothing about Persian culture, meaning when you grew up, you guys ate Persian food at home.
Oh yeah.
So you know those things. I mean, you know your family stuff.
Yeah.
It's you're talking about the history of Persian culture. You're talking about the language.
Yeah.
So this is funny. You start making a lot of observations about Iranians as you start to learn about becoming, as you become more dive into your own Persian heritage, something that I can relate to. And these observations range from, funny to things you're annoyed about, things you find weird, things we find weird, those of us who grew up in the diaspora. You tend to chronicle some of these on your Instagram page. So let me ask you about a couple of them. For example, what did you learn by being a waitress in an Iranian restaurant?
Oh my God, I've learned so much. I thought, I learned about the Iranian community by the time I started working here. I didn't know what was coming for me, honestly. It was just a whole, this, how can I say this? Chaotic, honestly. And I loved it so much. I loved this,
Why is it chaotic? What do you mean by chaotic?
How can I say this? Very loud. Everyone's staying, laughing, having fun and everything. Even they've come for some mishap. Suddenly they're drinking whiskey at the end of there, and then they're coming to the bar and they're like, "Oh, can I just have one more whiskey?" And you can see that they're warmed up and everything. And then I love this, but then there are a lot of negative things that I've seen that has really, really annoyed me. Some of them, they can look quite down upon you when they see, a Persian girl, basically an Iranian girl, serving them. You can feel that they're looking down upon you. They're like, "Oh, look at this, look at this girl. What is she like? Look at this waitress. I don't know, go wash the toilet or something." Do you know what I mean? You can feel that.
Or something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
This is her job.
No one understands that this is normal. In England, we have a lot of waitresses, and people progress being in restaurants as well. It's not a bad job. It shouldn't be looked down upon. But at the same time, I learned that also, as soon as they find out that you grew up in England, I shouldn't say they, some people, because most of our Iranian customers are absolutely so lovely. But then at the same time, some of them, as soon as they find out you grew up in England, you've got a law degree, but you're working in a restaurant and you're serving them, they do everything to make your job very hard, which is quite sad.
Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense to me. When they find out that you grew up in England and you have a law degree, they do everything they can to make your life hard? Why is that?
I don't know what it is, but it's they see me. I've grew up in England. I can't speak Farsi that well. They can see this, and I've never had experience working in a restaurant before, and I bring them something, and on purpose sometimes they're like, "I don't want this. It's got something on this. Can I please speak to the manager?" Or "I didn't like the service, and I didn't like that." And it can make your job really, really hard. As someone who can't speak much Farsi or stand up for herself, in Farsi, if you know what I mean. When
I was younger and my Farsi wasn't great, I found that because the community here was smaller, it was always considered cute. Oh, he's trying to speak Farsi, and only more recently, and there's been this huge influx of Iranian immigrants, especially to Toronto, to Canada, in the last few years. But more recently, when I go into especially parts of town where there's a, Persian, it's like a Persian area. We've got, this Toronto that sometimes people call it. And I speak and my Farsi isn't great and I revert to English or something. I get kind of weird looks what, how dare you? Why are you not speaking Farsi better? Which I never used to get before. It's an interesting. I don't know if that's the kind of thing you get at the restaurant. Why is this Iranian server not speaking Farsi perfectly? But that's the kind of thing I've felt sometimes.
Yeah, you know what? I completely agree. Because sometimes, if I'm nervous or I'm speaking Farsi and I quickly switch back to English, some of them actually get upset. They're like, "Can you just either speak English or can you just speak Farsi?" And I'm just like, okay, well, I can speak English and I speak English, and they start speaking Farsi, so I have to reply to them in Farsi, and it just gets so muddled up. But they can get, and I can remember that I served a customer once, and her friend was British, and he was asking me, you know, are you Persian? And I was like, yeah. And then he started asking me things saying, oh, you know, have you grew up here? And I was telling him about everything, and I was like, yeah, sorry, my Iranian isn't very well. She was so fast. This is I found out this is something that I need to really control, because, you know, a lot of Iranians are like, it's not Iranian, Farsi. Farsi. And I'm like, oh, sorry, my Farsi isn't really good. I'm so sorry. And it's just like, she quickly pointed that out. And from then on, that's when, you know, I kind of realized that I need to be careful switching back so much, because it can actually get on Iranian people's nerves. That's what I've understood.
You know, I should say, I was sort of being sassy at the beginning of the interview, but your Farsi is actually very good. I've seen you speaking Farsi on Instagram, and it's excellent. I mean, maybe it's not perfect, but and you search for a word once in a while, but we're doing you a disservice here. Your Farsi's are Iranians good tippers, or is there a difference between the tips you would get from a Persian person at your restaurant and a Khariji, I was going to say, but like a Londoner or a British person?
Iranians don't tip much, honestly, at all. I don't know, maybe because it's in the pandemic and everyone's just having quite a hard time. But what I've realized is they don't actually tip much. And if they do, it's like £3 or £2. Obviously, whatever tip we used to get is we shared it. Obviously, but now that this lounge is open, so I'm supervising this lounge, and whatever tip we get here as well, we have to share it. But I have a feeling when, you know, customers come back, pandemic is over, tips will go back up. I can't judge on if they're good tippers or not, because it was in the middle of the pandemic, so people financially weren't doing really well anyway.
You said that one of the ways you started learning Farsi well and learning about Persian culture was by dating an Iranian guy, I guess. What surprised you when you started dating an Iranian guy, or what did you learn from that?
Everything. So he was like my introduction to the Iranian community, and you know, I realized he was a lot more protective than any guy I've ever dated. He was, you know, I would say he was possessive, but he was just how can I say this? He was not jealous either, but you know, he'd call me at like 5 p.m. after I'm coming back. He's like, "Why, FaceTime me? I want to see where you are." And I've never had that in my life. I was like, wait, is this a thing? Now I know it's a thing. But back then I was like, is this a thing? Like, just FaceTiming each other, like showing each other like this. Like, once I went bowling with my friend.
Needing to know where you are constantly. Exactly. And that was something that you wouldn't experience with a non-Iranian before.
No, I've never experienced that with a non-Iranian boy. I liked it though. I mean, it was nice feeling someone cares about you so much or wants you so much that they need to know where you are at all times. And I don't blame him, because he was so far away from me. So obviously I needed to understand. I need to have like a bit of understanding of his behaviors. But
wait, where was he?
He lived in Iran.
You dated a guy who lived in Iran?
Yeah.
How did you see each other?
We went to Turkey all the time.
Wow. So you met, I guess you met online then?
Yeah, it was on Instagram. Never ever thought I would meet someone from Instagram. Usually I meet people in like real life. But he just once messaged me in something, and we just instantly clicked. And
it didn't occur to you that this might be a
bad idea? I don't know.
Well, not a bad idea, but that it might be challenging to date someone living in London who lives in Karaj.
Yeah. It was.
Yes.
Obviously it is, because you know, you don't know what they're doing, what they're getting up to, and the way he was so sensitive with me, it made me sensitive with him. But I had a lot of trust in him at first. I don't know why. He made me feel very warm and fuzzy inside, and he made me feel so protected and like he made me feel like one day we would be with each other forever in the future, and we talked about the future a lot. So it made me think it's okay to just go through these hard days, and just one day you can be with him, and you know, you can start a life together.
It must have been interesting for your parents, who've seen you grow up as this very English girl, coming back from uni, as you say, and going, what's up with these Mamoonies? How do I fit in here? To be then dating a guy who lives in Iran. How did they react to that?
My dad, let me tell you, my dad, he was not happy.
Oh, he wasn't happy?
He was so angry. I've never seen him so angry in his life.
Why angry?
Honestly.
Why was he so angry?
He was like, Kim, there's billions of guys. Like, if you want an Iranian guy as well, there's billions of guys.
There's a guy in Brixton. Why go to, right.
Why have you picked a guy from Iran? And I'm like, what's wrong with that? He's good looking, he's funny, he makes me laugh. You know, we really get along, we match, it's so good. And I actually remember I didn't tell him that I'm going to see him until the day of my flight to Turkey to go see him for the first time. That's why he was fuming. He was literally fuming. He was not doing
You
well.
were withholding information from your dad. Right.
Yeah, I was like, Dad, but you know what? Like, I'm old enough.
What happened with the Persian guy?
What happens usually with
is there something that normally happens with what he got too overprotective and that was too much for you and you said, I'm out of here? Is that what happened?
Oh, no. You know what? I always liked how protective he was.
Okay.
Even though it was weird for me, even though I had to get used to it, I liked it because I loved him.
Instagram channel.
First of all, much for him, and I'm a proud Iranian. So yeah, it was just time to just move. Perception that, you know,
and
people have, Iranians actually, not people, but Iranians have of Iranians.
Person,
it upsets me because I'm like, you know what, Iranians
make
aren't
it dangerous
like this.
For you to go to
you
Iran.
may have a few negative ones. I've had a few negative ones, but that doesn't mean that all Iranians are. I could say I wasn't really don't like each other. Iranians love each other, but again, they're quite chaotic. But I just wanted to like just maybe bring a bit of like the English culture in the Iranian culture, if you know what I mean. I love my Iranian culture so much. It's taught me so many things.
Dar bedar? What do you say?
No, door. Door
means like flirting with car. They go.
My
Door.
cousins used to say that. Yeah, we'll go door. We'll go bimitere and all of that and everything. And but obviously, I was still going to be alone there. My dad wasn't going to come with me because he hasn't got the time at the moment. I wanted to go. But I was too scared to be alone, and like, what if I like fell out with him and like he like kicked me out or something? Like he wouldn't, I know, but all of these things will come up.
Somehow going to Turkey alone felt safer for you.
I felt like it was safer to go Turkey alone. I don't know why.
Terrorists or you know, whatever stereotype. So in a way, I mean, one of the things I'm glad to have someone like you out there and folks who are doing the kind of things you're doing in social media is that you don't just show a different face to Iranians, but you show a different face of Iranians to non-Iranians as well.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? I wish I could do it in a way where English people would understand, because obviously all my captions and everything I put on my videos and everything is in Farsi. So it's a bit hard to teach my Iranian culture but show my Iranian culture to English people and then show the English culture to Iranian people.
So but who is your, sorry to cut you off, who is your audience, Kimia? Have you figured out who all of those followers, where are they? Are they majority in Iran?
Yeah, literally most of them live in Iran. We've got some in United Kingdom, some in United States, but literally I was checking my Instagram the other day just to see like who my followers are.
Yeah. And
the blue bar is literally the biggest one. It says Iran.
Yes.
And it's like I had such a proud moment. I was like, yes.
It must be wild for you at the same. I can tell you that, you know, Iran is the third biggest country in terms of countries, the audience for Roqe. Iran is number 3, and every day I'm shocked by that, because I think, how am I involved in something that Iranians in Iran are interested in? It's so lovely and gratifying. It must be shocking to you in some way, especially as someone who grew up so English, that you've got this mass audience in Iran identifying with you.
I know. You know what? It's very overwhelming. You have to be careful sometimes of what you say and how you basically talk about some of the situations and everything, because I'm still learning what's right and wrong in the Iranian culture. Some things that, you know, maybe in Britain we call banter, in Iran it's called being rude, basically.
Well, what's an example of that? What have you learned you have to be careful about?
You know, our dark humor. Iranians have their own dark humor, and then British people have their own dark humor. Yeah. And I have obviously the British dark humor. So sometimes, you know, they don't get it. Like, for example, the 2 girls I live with, they're my friends. It took them, you know, quite a bit of time to understand when I'm joking or when I'm just having a banter or something. Now, when I just say something, they laugh like so much. Yes. But back then, they used to just look at me really confused sometimes, or be like, what, is she actually doing this, or what, does she really want to do that? Right. And you know, it's one of those things where I try really hard to control again.
But you're very free. You don't seem self-conscious. I mean, you do. Sometimes you'll post something that is literally just a silly video of you headbanging to some song or something, like doing some funny dance, and which seems very free. Like you're not calculating in terms of what am I going to post and what are people going to think. And I think that's part of the charm of what you do. But clearly you don't seem fazed by the fact that your audience has grown as big as it has.
You know what? I think the most important thing is to always be yourself. That's what I wanted to be. That's what I always have been. And I've always been me. I've always been myself. And I will never, ever change my values, change my morals, or change who I am to please someone. If my morals are wrong, yes. Or if my values are wrong, okay. But I just don't, I feel like if people have followed me for my personality, that's what they probably want to see. I would never, you know, start calculating what I want to do, or start planning my things, or planning what I want to say on my story and everything, you know, because that's not going to be me. I'm just going to see what's on my mind. This is all you get. This is the raw.
So be honest here, though. Be Roqe. Are you saying that you don't know? You don't have a sense at this point of what's going to get you 50,000 clicks and what isn't, and that you don't sort of work that a little bit?
No. I'm going to be completely honest. I just make videos, put it on my story, and I just say what I'm thinking. For example, Iranian people have quite a hard time pronouncing the sound, the TH sound. I'm going to make a video about this. I think, you know, they'll find it useful. But for my comedy videos, I don't know. You know, I've got a few videos on there where all the comments that you can see is, Kim, we don't get this. What is this about?
And what about when that happens? I mean, do you go back and sort of say, oh, this one didn't do as well, the numbers are low? Do you care about that at all? Or I love that none of this means anything to you. You're just growing this huge base and doing what, because almost everyone who's in your position of quote unquote Instagram influencer or whatever they're called now is quite calculating about this in some way or another, you know?
No, honestly, I know. I don't think about it at all. Like, for example, I've just been gone for 2 weeks, and my followers, I didn't lose any followers, but I came back after 2 weeks acting like nothing's happened. I just posted a video, and then because I took a few videos, I just posted one, and I lost like 300 followers. I was like, okay, well, it happens. You're going to lose followers. They're going to be like, where's Kimia? Oh, she's here. Actually, I don't like this video. You've gone for a while, so right. Unfollow. And it's because I think, you know what? Some people that they grow their social media, they have a plan.
Yes.
I never planned. for my social media to blow up like this. I was just doing something I loved. I wanted to help the Iranian community, you know, in England and in Iran too. So I never ever thought that one TikTok or one English video, any of that would blow up. I was kind of just.
And do you ever think about, I mean, I know before the pandemic, with your law background, you were working at an immigration office, or you were working around legal issues for immigrants, something like that?
Yeah, so I actually moved to London to work in an immigration office, and I was training to become an immigration officer, actually, an immigration advisor, level 1.
So if that's that kind of career might be ahead of you, do you ever think, oh, this video could come back to haunt me of me doing this crazy dance or something, or you don't think about stuff like that?
No, not really. I wouldn't see why it would. I would be embarrassed of it, because I feel like my career in law, or whatever it may be in the future, it may not even be law, whatever it may be in the future, it will always stay disconnected with something that I started to help the Iranian community.
That's great.
I would never involve those two things together, and even I talked about my boss once on my story, and my boss came and he was like, don't talk about me on your story. I think he was like, I don't want people to think I'm like this and I'm like that. And that's when I found out. I was like, you know what? You need to keep these two completely separate.
Right. Separation of church and state.
Yeah. But that would never hold me. I'm proud of, where I am with my social media.
When you say people come to you for the personality, I have to say, I mean, you're very funny on camera. You're like a comedic actor, or like a cast member from SNL or something. I mean, have you always been this way? Were you known as the funny girl?
I was known as like the quiet girl at first when I was very, very young. I guess over the years I gained a lot of confidence. I wouldn't say it from the start I've been like this. I just gained a lot of confidence and just I don't accept myself fully. Everyone has their little things about themselves that they don't like, but I guess I'm happy with myself like 98%. The 2% I've still got, it's like called self-care, self-love. Like I've accepted who I am.
98% is pretty good, man. I would kill for 98%. That's good. How do you decide what is going to be a teaching moment on Kimia and what is going to be just silliness to make people laugh?
Oh God, I feel like I should give you like a very intellectual answer right now, but I don't.
No,
I don't have any.
It's what you're feeling that day. It's you just whatever comes.
Exactly. Whatever I'm feeling on that day, I'm like, obviously, I always do this a day before. A day before, I just sit on my notes and I'm like, okay, so let's go on TikTok. I've got these sounds saved. I've favorited these sounds. So on this sound, it would really be cool if I made this. Oh, that'd be really funny. I plan these little things, but then the next day I record a few things and then I'm like, actually, you know what? Since I've got my makeup on and I'm not going to put makeup on for the next week or so, let's make like an English video and, help the Iranian community or something. Teach them something British.
That is some planning. I mean, that it's not entirely spontaneous. You make notes the day before. You have a sense of where you're going to take things. I mean, even some of your silly, funny stuff is clearly something you've thought about because you have to shoot it in a certain way. You have to edit it. I mean, it's a comedy routine in a way.
Yeah, it's when I say planning, I plan that. I have to. I can't just go on my phone and just find a few sounds and everything and be like, oh, let's just dance to this and let's hope it gets views. Because like I said, like I don't even think about the views at all. Like I just post what I think is funny. Right. Like I see it on TikTok and I'm like, oh, I think this is really funny. But I posted and my Iranian followers are like, we don't get this at all. Do you know what I mean? But
do they say that sometimes? Do they say, I don't understand what you're doing? What is this?
Some of them do it for likes. To like start a little trend or something, but some of them genuinely some of the comments say, Kimia Jun, asla man nafahmidam in dar morد chiye, and I'm just like, you don't get this. But then I think about it to myself, I'm like, actually they wouldn't get it. This is why some of these are my spontaneous videos that I just get, or it's the videos that I like and I record it, but then my planning doesn't go as far as saying,
Right.
is this right for the Iranian community? Are they going to get it?
Right,
So this is what I mean when I say I don't plan everything properly. I do plan
It's
things,
very
but
subtle
not.
in some cases. Like, it's really subtle, funny humor. It's like you with a coffee cup, and then you move your head a little bit, and I mean, I find it very funny, but I can totally see somebody going, what is this? What am I looking at? And yet you've been very successful, and I love that it's unplanned. I hope that if you were you are a musician, but if you were if this was we were talking about you being a band, I would just be like, please don't end up with some high-powered manager and agent who are telling you have to care more about what you post, because it's so natural right now, and it's so funny what you're doing.
You.
It has been such a pleasure to talk to you. I'm a fan of what you do, and to see it growing is great. I want to figure out a way to have you regularly come visit us on Roqe. I like to ask this question sometimes when somebody is at the beginning of doing things, and say, okay, so 5 years from now, if I were to interview Kimia Yousefi, what would you hope that you'll be doing at that point?
You know what? I hope I have visited Iran, firstly, many times. But by then, I was actually hoping to have my own courses in teaching British English to Iranians. I would love to do that. Obviously, don't know how to first. I know 24 isn't young, but I'm still learning as life goes on. I don't know how to even start a business or anything, but I think it would be lovely for me to be able to just help people and just make up some courses like in British English, teaching that to Iranians in England, and make it accessible to people in Iran as well. But also have my page go up a lot more than what it is now, and maybe I don't know, actually maybe get back into my music, hoping I would get somewhere with my music. Well, you were in a band actually, weren't you?
I was.
So I think you would really know what I mean.
I do.
When you connect with the music and the instrument and everything.
I do. And I if I were you, I would. I think you're talented as a musician and a singer, and I think you should also pursue that for sure. For sure. Why not? First of all, you don't have to have any answers. You're 24. You do whatever you want and enjoy your life. But I think that your answer was really instructive and really interesting. That the fact that the first thing you said was, I want to go back to Iran. I want to see Iran. I think that's I think that'll be really. Actually, I'd love to talk to you when you come back from Iran. Especially since you've had this kind of project of learning the adventures of Kimia, learning about your own Persianness. It would be so interesting to see what it's like when you actually go there.
Sometimes, even now, for these past 2 weeks, I don't know what's been wrong with me. I've been looking at tickets to go to Iran, and I'm lying in bed and I'm I want to be in my country.
Wow.
I want to go and see my family. I want to go see my grandparents. I want to go see the mansion that Shah used to live in. I want to go see the museums. I want to go see the beautiful art and the beautiful buildings that everyone talks about. I want to go see Isfahan. I want to go Shiraz. I want to go everywhere. It's so many,
You just called Iran my country. And earlier in the interview, you talked about Britain, England being your country. It's confusing, isn't it, sometimes?
You know what? Actually, yeah, it is. I think England is my home, and it will always be my home. And Iran will always be my country, and it will always be who I am inside. I feel like I'm two people, actually. I'm English and Persian. Do you know what I mean?
A lot of
I
us
need to
feel
mix
that
these
way.
two together. Do something about it.
A lot of us feel that way, and sometimes in life you add more layers to that. So I feel like I'm at least three people: British, Canadian, Iranian. And then it just keeps going. we'll see where it all goes for you, and we'll continue the conversation. Again, I thank you for this. Have a great evening in England, and I'll look forward to catching up again. And thank you for all that you do for advancing our community in your way. And I think you're off to some great stuff on your Instagram page, and I'm so glad that we got to chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really lovely talking to you. Thank you for having me on here.
See you soon.
See you.
Khudafis. Bye.
Bye.
Kimia Yousefi is a law graduate who has turned to the internet to create funny videos and commentary about Persian culture, language, and stereotypes. Kimia joined me from London, England today. The Roqe team microphones back on. Groovy Shaya, Captain Reza, the fabulous Keon. How about that Kimia?
I know, right? She's just so perky. I like her. I watched a couple of her videos as you guys were doing the interview. I got curious. I didn't know her before this interview.
So you weren't listening to the interview. You were watching.
No, I was listening to the interview as well. I can multitask, Jian.
Yes, all right.
But no, she's really, really funny.
She is
like
funny.
Her.
Yeah. She's such a Groovy Shaya. Did you enjoy that? You were smiling through that interview?
Yes, I mean, another law graduate who has talent.
That's right, like you, a law graduate who's putting it to good use.
Yeah. And do you have TikTok?
I don't have TikTok. I go look at TikTok, but I don't have it.
I'm not familiar, but it's a new. I mean, it's
new by which you mean a couple of years old,
I mean,
or 5 years old.
I feel honestly, I feel pretty old to go into TikTok and can connect to. No, really, I feel I'm.
I don't think you need to go to TikTok. No, but do you feel like you're missing something, Shaya?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not at all.
You
just wanted the validation of knowing that your other friends don't go on it as well. You didn't want the rest of us to go, what? You're not on TikTok? And the fabulous Keon.
She's great. She's very cute. I've seen a few of her videos in the past, and she's distinctly memorable. She has that British accent. Yeah. She makes those funny Iranian videos. And a lot of people might take her very lightly. Like, listen, she's a social media Instagram person, like she's not really contributing to anything, but she is, in fact. I remember years ago when I was in, junior high school, I was one of the only Iranian kids in the neighborhood in a predominantly white area. And one specific girl on one occasion was like, "Oh, so if you're Persian, are you like from Peru?" So someone like Kimia is really promoting our culture. So I have non-Iranian friends coming to me saying, "Oh my God, you guys are hilarious."
No, and in very light and funny ways, she's addressing some really profound issues, especially that will speak to and build that connectivity with people in Iran. Like a lot of young women follow her, a lot of people around the world follow her, but many fans of hers in Iran. She's addressing issues.
Exactly.
She's just doing it in a comical kind of way, and in as a character. And I love it. I love what she's doing, and I hope that she continues to do it. And like I said before, I think she's going to be a star. The best part of that interview to me was how clear it is that this is not prefabricated, that she has no master plan. She's kind of like, no, I don't really. I mean, she doesn't. We've had guests on who are doing well in social media and are very, very aware of what they need to do to get their clicks and how they story things and all of that. Exactly. I mean, she is just doing things that she thinks are funny with her friends, and it seems like all kind of a surprise to her. I almost don't want this moment to end. I feel like 5 years from now she'll have graphs and a team and an agent, and and right now it's just like it's the beginning. It's really nice. All right, it is Thursday. We're going to get to Arghavan in just a little bit, joining us from Sweden, but first, it is Thursday, and you know what that means. She's a dear friend, a diaspora blend, a gym workout cat, and a bicultural brat. But lovable, smart, and funny, and on a journey to discover what we actually discovered. Here we go, Bachaha. It's all Persian to us with Kian Nademi.
Colombia.
All right. What do you have for us this week, Keon June?
Well, ancient Persians were known to be extremely inventive with their surroundings, always looking for ways to improve their systems of life. Anything from the discovery of practical things like the refrigerator or the yakhchal
Or heels, high heels.
That too.
High heels.
Right.
To even more practical things.
Practical. That's right. That's the most impractical thing.
Well, the
ever.
most practical I'd say is wine, but that's just me.
Fair enough.
Making the best of any situation is something we've been doing for thousands of years. It's part of our DNA, and we see evidence of it even today with the long list of inventions that Persians have come up with. Many of the guests have been on this show, Roqe.
Yeah.
We're talking about a civilization.
The guests have been the inventions?
Yeah, right.
They have come up with inventions.
They've come up with inventions.
Thank you for correcting me
making
so
sure I know,
wittingly.
yeah.
Podcast goes back to 4,000 years BC.
So we're talking about a civilization of people that has, against all odds, survived over the course of years.
True.
So inevitably, a civilization that old is faced with countless enemies that has literally destructed like so many things that were part of our culture, many of which include several books that held secrets of life that we will never truly find out. But I digress. So what do we do to uncover the past and try to piece everything together?
We
dig.
Google.
Dig. We pray. We dig. We dig.
And dig they did back in 1936 in a village near Baghdad, Iraq, when curious-looking jars were found, which were later discovered to be from the Parthian period of Persia, roughly around 250
Jars.
BC. Yes,
All right.
jars. So within these jars was a vertical iron rod surrounded by a copper cylinder. So the
Very large jars.
yes, well, large-ish, not like massive.
Large
but-
enough to have iron rods.
How
Yeah,
big
like
of a rod are we talking
How big of a
about?
jar?
Like, not
It's
that.
like a massive jar.
I don't know the exact measurements, guys, but like imagine a jug of water, let's say.
Oh.
So this iron and copper cylinder thing was mounted on an asphalt stopper that insulated them from one another. Fill the jars with an electrolyte like, say, vinegar, and voila. A voltage of 1.5 to 2 volts of electricity were produced. And thus you have the first battery in ancient times, otherwise nicknamed the Baghdad Battery.
Oh.
Were you guys aware of this?
Well,
No idea.
But the fact that it's called the Baghdad battery doesn't bode well for it being Persian.
Well, it was discovered near Baghdad, so I guess that's why. But it
So
was.
are we calling those things Persian now? The things that
Well, it was part of the Persian Empire.
Oh,
This
that's
was-
right.
yes,
I see. Okay,
yes,
that's right, of course,
It
yes.
was a vast empire,
Yes,
Jian.
yes,
It
yes.
extended
I was-
amongst many continents.
Right. I
Yes.
guess they could figure out when it was buried.
Yes, 250
yeah,
BC, which
right.
was during, at that
If
time.
it was buried 6 months before that, it would be Iraqi.
Oh, it was
Right.
Persian, yeah. So the exact use of the ancient battery is unknown. That's when all those ancient books that were burned down to the ground would have come in handy. But however, it's believed to have been used to electroplate gold onto silver objects. Persians do love their gold,
Wait a second. Sorry, the battery was used
Yes.
to electroplate,
Yes.
whatever that means,
Like
gold to
basically,
silver.
yes, exactly. So that amount of power gave them the ability to do this. But beyond that, we don't really know too much. I
Right.
mean, like they discovered these jars and
Did
they
we invent
discovered
the
that,
electroplate?
that I don't know. I'll get into
I don't-
What's
basically put gold onto silver. Yeah,
Okay.
yes, look it up, Shai. Yeah. But regardless of its uses, this was a profound discovery for its time. Think about this for a second. This was the beginning stages of developing electricity back in 250 BC. Predating Alessandro Volta. His first battery was discovered in 1800. So it's predating his discovery by thousands of years.
I like this part where there's somebody who's claimed to have discovered something, and we're like, buddy,
Actually,
2,000 years before that, we discovered.
He did it. Jafar Agha, who was from the...
See, this is the problem. A lot of our books were burned to the ground, and a lot
That's
of
right.
these like secrets of the
If
past
only the
are
books
hidden.
hadn't been burned to the ground.
Right.
People
Who
would
knows?
know we discovered all this stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're talking about something that's used in everyday life.
We just have to find the jars. jars. The jars that are
We just-
buried in various.
Just start digging and you might
That's
find
right, that's
something.
right.
Yeah. So this is something that's used in everyday life, from driving a car to using your phone to watching TV. So this discovery is unfathomably important. You get this, Reza?
That's right.
And who really knows what else was invented around that time of the Baghdad battery? Most of the secrets of the past remain a mystery, including this one. So what do? We dig on, my friends. We dig on to tell a story from another time, another world, another realm. It's all Persian to us.
Nicely done.
The Baghdad battery.
Can I say a proverb
Please, go
related
ahead.
to دیگ به دیگ میگه رود سیاه means
چی؟
all the دیگ میکنن and then find a better job.
No, dig be dig mige rutsia is actually, we have the exact very same saying in English. The pot calls the kettle black.
I don't get it, though. What are you trying to
What?
say?
You've never heard this saying?
No.
Pot calls the kettle
Have
black.
you, Jian?
Yes, that's a very popular. Keon, which language are you comfortable in?
I don't know
It's
anymore.
Idaho.
The
Come
pot
on.
calls the kettle black is like if you say, "Hey, Jian, your Persian sucks." I would say, "Oh, that's the pot calling the kettle black because your Persian sucks."
Oh. Wait, so how is this related to what
No,
He
no.
just said it in Farsi.
Oh,
He
got
said
it,
dig
got
be
it.
dig
Dig,
mige
dig.
rutsia.
He's just playing on the word dig.
Dig,
which-
okay.
All right. Well, so the point is that
Yes,
some
the bottom
jars
line.
were
Yes.
some
I
jars.
don't know how we got to this
I'm just stuck on the jars. Some
Yeah.
jars that had huge metal iron rods. in
They
them,
weren't huge, but you know, they were
big
significant.
enough to electroplate.
Yes,
the gold to silver.
Whatever electroplating.
Yeah, whatever that was. I mean, we're just supposed to believe all this stuff.
Well,
and
you
then we
can-
invented the battery. Not to take anything away from the segment. This is important to me, of course.
It did-
Refrigerator, wine,
Right.
battery. I'll claim it all. but
Yeah. It held electricity within, mind
The
you,
jar,
very
within
limited
the jar.
amount, 1.5 to 2
The jar buried in
volts of
Baghdad.
it.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly. But who knows who knows what else is related to this? Like, who knows if they tied them all together, what else they would have used it for?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. And maybe we won't ever know, but we keep on digging, as I said.
I'm waiting for the episode where you'll be like, well, guys, you know who invented television? Wow,
Oh, for
there
sure.
we go.
For sure.
It's gonna come up.
There was. I'll do my Keon. And what did they do? They went to Berlin, where they began to dig. And what did they find? They found a DVD player. And that's all Persian to us. But Keon, it was Berlin. What? No, because the Persians were there before.
That's part of Persia.
But a DVD player, it was in a jar. They had jars.
But his name was
okay.
Hans, Keon.
Can we?
No, it was Hassan
Guys,
back
this
then.
was the beginning stages of electricity.
That's
Do you
right,
understand
that's
this?
right. Yes, the battery. We invented the battery.
So had we have not faced countless wars,
Who would
knows what-
electroplate the gold into
Yeah,
silver?
exactly.
Whatever electroplating means. I don't even know what it means.
It would have progressed to a larger amount of
Sorry,
electricity.
Keon. You are doing a public service
Ay,
by
Khuda.
We ruined
telling
it.
us what, explaining
please help me.
what what we've invented. And
Yes.
this one sounds, it's. I mean, no, this is important.
Yes, it is.
In 1936 in Baghdad, they found some jars.
Yeah. Dating back to 250
That's
BC.
right. That's right.
Yes.
And we discovered, and we are the ones, not Volta, that
Precisely.
discovered, not this pretender Volta.
Not to take away from his discovery. I mean, let's be real. It was pretty.
In 1971 in Sao Paulo, they started to dig, and they found a cell phone. But Keon, that's in Brazil. Yes, but the Persians had been there, and in a jar they found a small Nokia cell phone that was used by the Persians when they were riding the horses against the Greeks. Keon, what happened to your accent? I don't know.
Really
This is
don't
the way
know.
I talk when I'm explaining things. I start to sound like an old British man.
I still sound like Michael Caine.
Well, I believe
tell
it's
you.
time for me to leave and never
Right.
come back now.
All right, it's all Persian. Well, thank you very much, Keon June, Captain Reza, Groovy Shaya. Poor Arghavan's been waiting. Let's go to Stockholm, Sweden in just a moment. Thank you for another edition of It's All Persian to Us. Well, she is a Swedish-Iranian singer and women's advocate who came to fame around the world amongst Iranians when she appeared on the Gugush Academy TV program in 2010 and brought down the house. Take a listen to this.
چراغ آسمان روشنی بخش جهان
There you go, a little taste of my next guest performing the song Mahtab live on Gugush Academy in 2010 and in front of about 32 million viewers, by the way. Her name is Arghavan, and following her appearances on that popular program, she heard from Persians around the world and became deeply involved in the plight of women, and in particular, women in Iran and their lack of rights and freedom of expression. Arghavan is a creative artist who has been using her platform to shed light on the rights of women in Iran and around the world over the last decade. She was the UN ambassador for women in Sweden from 2014 to 2019. And Arghavan is the author of the book Zan, which was published in Sweden in 2014. The book is about 9 women in Iran who, against all odds, achieved their dreams. Arghavan has also been working on a documentary about the characters of her book for the past 10 years. She was born in Tehran in 1982. At the age of 3, her family fled Iran because of the activism of her father. They immigrated to Sweden, where Arghavan grew up. In recent years, Arghavan's latest project, Artem, a space for female artists to intersect and empower, was banned in Iran in 2018, and she had to flee the country again after 33 years having passed from her first exile. Right now, Arghavan joins me from Stockholm, Sweden today. Hello.
Hi.
Noruz Piruz, can we still say that, or is it too late now?
I think we can say it. Sal no Mubarak be hamegi.
Yes. How are you doing, by the way? I know you went to Norway to do Artem and then you got corona. Are you okay?
No, I moved to Norway last year, and a couple of months ago I was in Pakistan, and then I got corona in Pakistan. Yeah.
And that must have been scary. What happened?
Like, everybody told me not to go to Pakistan before corona, and then when corona came, they told me again not to go. So I took a big risk of everything. So like, everybody knows it's gonna happen. So I got sick, but I guess I'm the lucky one because I could still breathe. And the thing that was most I never felt so lonely in my life before, because I was isolated 14 days in a room, kind of without windows and kind of without food. So it was like a prison. But I was thinking every day how lucky I am that I have so much work to do all the time. I was keeping myself busy.
I was thinking, I mean, getting COVID is scary enough, but to get it when you're away from any friends and family in a completely different country, it must have been daunting.
Yeah, I'm okay.
I'm glad. I want to circle back.
A lot of meditation while I was there, and a lot of thinking,
Right. It gave you some space. I want to get back to Artem and what you're doing these days, and in fact to your whole story. But let me start with this. The first thing that occurs to me, Arghavan, is that we being people in the diaspora, people who have immigrated in our lives, we go in different directions when we leave the country of our heritage. Everyone's different. You left Iran when you were 3. It would make sense. It could make sense if you were entirely Scandinavian now. You're just a Swedish girl. But you are clearly still Iranian enough to have made Iran one of your focuses throughout your life, throughout your creative work, and to perform in the Gugush Academy in 2010. Tell me about how you grew up in Sweden but remained so Iranian.
I would like to start with last year. I decided I don't want to say anymore that I'm Iranian or Swedish. I want to call myself a global citizen. It's also because I never feel like I have home anywhere because I move around all the time. I lived in 9 countries. And when I decided to go to Norway without knowing anyone, and now after a year almost know the whole city, I was like, I need to not be focused where I am from because I never got the support that I needed in Sweden and never got the support I needed in Iran. So where is my home? My home is in my projects. So yeah, my upgrowing was really, really normal, even though we had to flee the country. I was 5 when I knew what freedom of expression was. For a 5-year-old, it's like, it's a huge burden, maybe. I don't know. But I knew it was because of my dad's art and what he was doing. And we were welcome into Sweden. It's not like now. It was like 5 immigrants family in the city we were growing up. So everybody was so curious, who are we? They want to learn our language, our food, where we. So, this was not normal upgrowing, even though, of course I got bullied in this, but that was because of different reasons.
It wasn't because of being an immigrant? You never had trouble fitting in, say?
No, we grew up in a very small city. Like I said, everybody was so curious and treated us so well. And we learned the language really fast. But, to know that we had to flee because of my dad's art has always been with me. So
tell me exactly what happened. I don't actually know the full story. I mean, I know that something about your dad and activism. Why did your family have to flee Iran?
Well, after 79, after the revolution, everything got restricted. And my dad was a poet. He was an artist. He was a writer. He was like saying out loud what he was thinking. So to give us a better and more free life, we decided to flee because, we had to.
So activism runs in your blood, I suppose.
Yeah, activism and being a voice.
I can't let this go. It's too provocative. It's too interesting. This idea that you just decided that you prefer to be a global citizen or to call yourself that. So many of us struggle. We've talked about this a lot on this show since one of the subtexts of our program is identity. We've talked about how so many of us struggle with where we actually fit in. I mean, I've joked about calling myself a nowhereian in the past because I don't really know. I grew up in England and then I came to Canada, but my family's Iranian, and I grew up in a very Christian. I went to school reading the Lord's Prayer, but my family was sort of Muslim, and I was in a Jewish community. It gets very confusing. But you also have to kind of know where you come from to know where you're going. So when you say I'm sort of renouncing calling myself anything from being Iranian or Swedish to just global citizen, what does it mean in terms of recognizing where you come from?
I come from Iran, and I always say, we always have to know where we come from. But it's a lot of people like us, right? There are so many people that fled the country. We know so many stories. That was why I started to work with these stories, because I knew too much not to do anything. But after a while, we're probably going to talk about it, but when my project got banned in Iran, when I got banned in Iran, and I felt like I was so lonely in this mission to be this voice for the women. All the projects, it was like big projects, but I was so lonely. And then I decided I want to make my projects more global. I want to tell women's story. And everywhere I go, even though I say I don't have a home, everywhere I go, like doors open up because I dare to say I'm from here now. And people think it's kind of brave and cool that I dare to go, to these countries and like, hey, what's up? I'm going to take over this place.
When you say I didn't get the support from Iran and Iranians, I didn't get it from in Sweden, I mean, we'll get into, as you say, the story of what the Iranian authorities have said about you and done with you. But did you feel that way amongst the people too? I mean, my sense was that you did get a lot of support from Iranians, especially after the Gugush Academy thing, and you know that you've been seen as somebody that we're proud of, and that you would probably be hearing from a lot of people in the community around the world over the last 10 years.
It depends what support means, right?
Yeah.
Not just like and comments and you're great. Not this kind of support. The support that I wanted to have brave people around me to tell me, like, okay, who do you know in Iran? Who should I meet? Like, I went back all alone with nothing, you know, and all the women that are in my projects, this is the support, you know, and this is the brave women that are able to tell these stories. How can I try to make a change if they don't tell their stories?
Right.
So there was kind of this support. And also, you know, everywhere I went, it was like, you're too political in Sweden, in LA, wherever, like, what do you mean I'm too, I just try to tell stories about these women, you know.
They say that to you in Sweden?
In Sweden too, because they say you're not going to succeed because everything you do is about Iran. And, you know, because I want to do like fashion, arts and this, they're like, no, nobody going to buy your things also because your focus is on Iran, and Iran, you know, people kind of don't like Iran. Like this kind of stupid conversations.
It's complex. It's not easy. You talked about your dad, and I said, you know, is activism running in your blood? And you said, well, to be public, to have a public voice. Let's get into your story. I mean, did you always see yourself as being in the public eye? Was teenage Arghavan in Sweden thinking, I'm going to eventually be somebody that people know around the world?
I knew I was different. Because imagine that you come to a city with like 5 immigrant families and everybody think your eyes are special because they're brown and your dark skin and your hair. But when I grew up, I got bullied because of this, because I was like, I looked like a boy and everybody thought I was so ugly and skinny and this, so, you know, but before I got bullied, I'm like, wow, I'm special, you know? So I'm like, I'm going to do something. I'm going to be a voice one day.
How did the bullying affect you? Were you one of those people who, I mean, like me, resented for a little while that your background, wondering why you have to be different from everybody else, or were you always able to embrace it and see it for what it was in terms of bullying or racism or whatever?
Actually, it was the people, immigrant people. It was not Swedish people bullying me.
Oh, you were being bullied by other immigrants.
The thing is, last year I started to talk about this bullying thing because, you know, I do so many other things that I never thought that bullying, I'm like, everybody gets bullied, right? But last year I was thinking about, but no, maybe that affected me that much that I still want to be a voice for others, you know, because I have the strength in me. So yeah, it affected me, but in a good way now, I guess.
Everyone can have a rough ride, but I think there's certainly people who get bullied more than others, you know, and I'm pretty sure when I was growing up, there were people that didn't have to deal with being called a terrorist like I did, you know, so, or whatever. So I think that you're being modest, or you're trying to not self-victimize maybe by saying, you know, oh, I was bullied and making a big deal of it, but it is kind of a big deal at the same time.
Yeah, I know. Probably something I have to deal with fashion. No, but it was horrible. I talked about it in a big interview last year, and then I was thinking about maybe that affected me. But many things in my life have happened that I'm thinking, was it that affected me, that I'm doing this stuff? Maybe it's all together, but end of the day, the bottom is that it's been about putting my voice down.
How did, given that it was such a turning point, how did the Gugush
Well, so when I was 20, around 20, I started to sing, and I want to sing in Farsi. I don't know why, because back then Arash was like exploding in the world, right? So I wanted to be the first female Arash.
And he was in Sweden, right? He was a Swedish.
Yeah, he was in Malmö. I even met him and his company and all of this. And then I started to work with some other people, and they were like sending my music to LA, and people were laughing, like lahche dari. Have an accent, right? And I'm like, yeah, but isn't it cool that I'm Iranian, grew up in Sweden, and want to do this? Like, Arash is doing that. Why can I not do it? You know, I was so positive, but no, they didn't want to do anything. And then I applied for Gugush Academy, and it was actually because of my accent they accepted me.
Interesting, because you were different.
Yeah, it was. Maybe they thought she's going to be the clown in the show, which I became, but a good clown.
You did not become a clown. You became beloved. I mean, you've tell me about that experience, because you've talked about that being this real point of consciousness for you around the plight of women, especially in Iran, after you heard from so many of them after that TV program. What did you hear that so moved you?
It was during the program. So I came there, you know, singing in front of these people, and my dad, it was the first time he saw me on stage, you know, and Gugush is sitting there, and I was wearing a hat, I was dancing, I was being free on stage. And something that I have to tell you before this, when I was 21 and I started to sing, and, you know, in our culture, it's not so nice to sing and dance and be a performer. And my dad actually told me he didn't like it first. So it was the first time I didn't spoke to my dad for 3 days, because I'm like, how can you tell me this? You're an artist yourself, you know? But then he came to me and said, okay, I let you sing. You have to promise me 2 things. One thing, that you never give up. And the second is, when you become a voice, you help others. Wow. I was like 20 and this, oh wow, Dad, you believe in me then? So I had that thought in my mind. So when I was 27,
wait a second. Just let me sit with that for a second, because the never give up part, that's so beautiful. In other words, he was saying, all right, if you're going to do this, do it. Don't, you know, not only will I support you, but I expect you to really go for it. And I actually, that's a very beautiful thing for a parent to say.
My parents are the best. Everywhere I go, everywhere I talk, I always thank them. Like, and everything I do is because of them, their support. And I tell this also for parents to know this and be more supportive for the kids, because even though I still don't have a real home for myself, and yeah, the typical stuff you should have at this age, they never forced me. They just say go. Even Pakistan, 99% told me not to go. My parents say go, but be careful. And I was crying that day, you know. I'm like, Dad, how can you be so nice? He's like, I know you're on a mission, so just go. I'm like, wow. Yeah.
So you were saying you, by the age of 27, you've started singing. You've got the blessing of your dad.
Yeah, I was one of the participations in Gugush Academy. And every night I went on stage, you know, I felt, wow, finally. People, when they saw Gugush, they cried and fainted. I went out and called my dad. Dad, I'm singing for Gugush, you know. I told you I'm going to make it. But during this competition, it was so many. Back then, we didn't have Instagram. We had Facebook, right? So many people wrote to me. And the ones that touched my heart the most was from girls in Iran, telling me we cannot be on stage and sing. We cannot do this. We cannot do that. So every time it got like bigger burden for me to go on stage. Like, why should I sing? It's 80 million in Iran. Why should I sing? Then I started to feel guilt. And this is also something I think about now. You know, what does this guilt do to you? But as an artist, you have to be so egoistic to make it, you know. You have to put 2,000% in your voice and drive and everything. But I put down the microphone and I'm like, I want to tell these stories. I didn't know how. I didn't know what it was going to be. But I collected some girls that wrote to me and I said to them, tell me how it is to live as a woman in Iran. So the first project became a book that you talked about, Zan. So it's 9 women's story telling how it is to live in Iran against all odds. And this is like support from people. We made this book together. It's not a big published company, you know.
Yeah, I should just remind people listening, in case some folks don't know this, or for non-Iranians. I mean, there's certain ways that we try to explain to people that, Iran or Iranians are not all sort of barbaric, backwards, folks in terms of what happens in Iran. But there are some laws on the books that are just outstandingly offensive. One of them being that women still to this day can't sing, the lead part in a song in Iran. Is that right? And can't record in Iran.
Yeah, so they can sing if they sing traditional music, they can sing if they're back vocalist, and they can sing if they sing for women. So this is the rules, but they cannot be solo artists. They cannot stand on a stage like me and perform free and receive applause.
The heartbreaking part is the once satellite TV becomes a really omnipresent thing in Iran, and certainly by 2010 it was. I mean, that's who many of the millions of viewers of Gugush Music Academy would have been. It's heartbreaking. They're watching you, and they're seeing you as a role model or an aspirational dream or something, and then they're realizing that the country they're in wouldn't even let them be able to do that, right? Is that what they were writing to you, basically?
Yeah. And, I have famous people, saw this like famous artist I have that I love in Iran, that because it became a big show, they were watching me. Now I know it because they wrote to me, like my idols, and most of them say it was enough if you kept singing. Because still also they don't understand why I do these projects, because this book and the documentary, and why didn't you focus on your song? Why didn't you could have been one of the biggest young artists, but after me, this show was keep going maybe 8-9 seasons. So
what is your answer to that question? Because I had that question as well. I mean, not to take anything away from what you're doing, obviously, but you work so hard to get to Gugush Academy. You do well. You've got these millions of people who are following you. And then, I mean, to just check your Spotify in preparation for this interview, there's only a few songs there. I mean, you've been so busy with the other things that you're doing that it hasn't only been about a music career or becoming a pop star or something like that. So what do you say to those people who say, why didn't you do that? Why are you focusing on a documentary and on your art projects and on rights issues, etc.?
First of all, the people in Iran, like this artist, they will never understand. It's many people that don't understand, and even my friends don't understand sometimes, because I didn't make money for the past 11 years, right? I didn't have a salary. I lived in bags. This is the truth. And most of the people working with human rights and are activists, they know it. Yeah. But when you have a vision, and when you're voiced, and when you have this drive that you're able to tell stories that can be inspirational for so many other people, and also middle of this try to create a change. I started 11 years ago with these stories about singers, in every time I'm on stage, because I still perform sometimes. When I'm on stage, I'm like, how many people in this room know it's not allowed to sing in Iran? Just a simple song. And when they know it, I don't want people to feel guilty, but then we know like how privileged we are. And I think we have to be reminded more how privileged we are. And I don't want people to go and work with this art and just help another person. That is enough. So when they tell me this, sometimes I don't have answers, because I'm not here to convince other people why I think my work is important. But yeah.
But have you had moments, I mean, just to be Roqe about it, have you had moments in the last decade where you go, fuck, I could have been I should have focused on that music thing to be, this Beyonce now or something. I don't know. And instead, I've been doing all of this stuff, and I'm living out of bags. And I wouldn't mind having some penthouse suite in a fancy condo or something.
If that was the goal, I would probably have a lot of houses and cars and this. But it's not been important for me because I come from this family that it's not important to have stuff. Sometimes my dad get really, he's so emotional and he's so romantic. Sometimes he cry and say, sorry, I couldn't give you. Because sometimes people think the support I get is like money, Right. And he cries sometimes, sorry. I'm like, Dad, you gave me the best gift. You saved us from this country and you let me follow my dreams.
What did it mean to become UN ambassador for women in Sweden?
Well, that was the nicest gift for my work, but it was after my book was published, 2014. That was like, okay, you're on a right way. Just go, So that meant a lot. So I was that until 2019. I think I'm the first Iranian woman. So I'm very proud of that. But then back then, my focus was only on Iran. So they supported me everywhere we went together. I talked about this woman, but it's also, to inspire other women in Scandinavia. That's, come on, we're free, do something, whatever, So, yeah.
So I have to ask you then about artem and what happened in Iran in 2018. Tell us first about this exhibition, this idea, artem, that you've been touring with a little bit.
Okay, so 11 years ago, at the same time I started the book project, I said out loud, I want to do a documentary about girls in Iran that still are forbidden to sing. So I went back 2 times, even though artists cannot go back, and I kind of risked my life to go back because it was so important to me to meet the women in the book, in the documentary, to ask them how it is. Mm-hmm. And last time I was there, I started Artem too, and that is an art project. So yeah, I don't know how to, now I don't want to confuse people because I do a lot of stuff.
No, there's a documentary and there's an art project, and art and people can check out online. It's very interesting, integrative, working with women in different parts of the world now.
It's a collaboration between 2 countries and 2 female artists that connect and paint together. So it started when I was in Iran. I met 5 artists and I gave them a canvas each, and I told them to paint half of it about the theme freedom. So they painted half of it, and the other half I matched them with a Swedish artist. So when I came back to Sweden, without them knowing, so it's about trusting the process and have faith in each other as women and as artists. So the other artists see this, and it's very hard for them to be number 2 because they always say, we don't want to ruin this part. But I say, it's about trusting each other. Let's create magic. So they paint, and luckily enough, it's magical pieces. It's so unique, and it's 2 stories in one painting. So I started with Iran and Sweden, 10 women, 5 paintings it became. So we had 7 exhibitions, and we were supposed to have one in Iran, which got banned.
So the first time, you said you went to Iran twice. The first time was when? What year?
2013.
Okay. And you go and nothing happens. Everything's okay. Nobody stops you. Nobody has any issue with you.
This is after Gugush Academy, so it was really risky because I know a lot of people are afraid to go back.
Yeah.
Again, maybe I was lucky, but I was, of course, careful. I had my ways to come into the countries. But
you have your ways. Sorry, what? Like, meaning you don't just fly to the airport in Tehran?
Maybe I'm a little bit scared to tell.
Oh, okay,
the way,
okay.
but
That's okay. If you tell me whatever you're comfortable with, but that I'm very interested. I mean, a lot of us want to go to Iran and know that it could be a real problem. So I'm always interested to ask how somebody did it.
I can tell you, I have 2 passports, right? So I used one of them to get in and one of them to get out. But now when I'm banned, it doesn't matter. I don't even want my Persian passport anymore.
So 2013 you go and come back, but in 2018 is the time that you get banned and you basically get kicked out of the country. What happened? How did that happen?
Well, it didn't happen like that. So I went back because I wanted to continue the stories about the girls in my documentary. I've been following 5-6 artists for 6-7 years. So I wanted to go back and see how their life were, and they recommended, let's do a show. Let's do a live performance. And I told them, okay, guys, listen, you tell me how we can make this. It was their idea because we were doing a song together. So I said, let's do it, but you have to help me. So how can we do it and be careful? Should we have a hijab? Should we not have? All the details were planned. And we were so careful. But when we had the show, and this is like nobody knows about, I've been talking about it in Swedish radio interviews, but like not in the Iranian interviews or something.
Okay.
But somebody found out, it was leaked out, and that night I had to flee again from the country. It was one of the most dramatic nights in my life, and afterwards also too. And now I can talk about it without crying, but it was, imagine at this age you had to flee from this beautiful country again.
Yeah. I was thinking about the women who are in the documentary, or the female artists you've talked about. This has implications for them too. They sound like very brave people. Would that be true?
Well, they're the bravest girl I met. People tell me I'm brave. I'm like, okay, I was brave to go back, but these women are so brave. But they don't live there anymore. 3 of them don't live there anymore. One lives in Canada, one lives in Germany, and one now in Sweden. And now this is the proof. You cannot sing in Iran. If you want to sing, you have to move, flee, or and say goodbye to your family. So this we have this in the documentary right now, like you cannot stay in Iran and sing. So I met actually last week one of the girls I've been following for 7 years, and I just wanted to ask her, was it worth it?
And what did she say?
Well, you have to watch the documentary.
Well, when is the documentary coming out?
Ask my producer. It was supposed to be done 2 years ago. We hope next year, because I feel I'm done filming. I've been filming for 10 years.
It's very, I'm very much look forward to seeing that. It's so interesting that what your journey has become, because there's a notion around, I mean, I know these programs are very popular, American Idol or Gugush Music Academy or The Voice, but there's a notion that these can be very superficial programs, and it's about making, it's not really about art, and it's about artifice, and it's just kind of turning everything into a talent contest and for TV ratings and things. And then I hear a story like this, and I think I'm grateful that it's a strange jumping off point doing songs, for Gugush on a glitzy show, but I'm glad that happened to be able to bring you and your voice to these platforms that you're using in such industrious ways.
Yeah, but maybe, sometimes I'm thinking maybe I should have waited to be that Beyonce famous, like my dad say, when you become famous, you have to help others. Maybe I should wait, because maybe then I would get like sponsors and, this kind of stuff. It's been really, really tough to do this, It's like, because if I would have waited, but then again, it's like, I just try to enjoy the ride.
Well, you certainly haven't stopped, and I'll end with this. In one of your latest Instagram posts, you quote Banksy, the difficult to find rebellious artist that we love, and you say, if you get tired, learn to rest, not to quit, and you hashtag it dream big. So What are you dreaming big about these days?
So all my posts ends with dream big, hashtag. And dreaming big is about we all have to find, I just want to be an inspiration that we all can do bigger thing in life and be a bigger voice for ourselves also, and there is so much out there and we can do so much. Like we can choose one thing and try to just go for it.
You know what my advice would be?
No. Tell me.
Learn to rest, not to quit.
But that's the same. Isn't it the same quote? Did you steal it? And
yes,
make it yours?
I stole it from Banksy, but he's stolen a lot of things, to be fair, over the years. So I think it's fair. It has been a revelation and very enjoyable talking to you. Thank you for making the time. I know you're exhausted and you're in the middle of moving all over the place. And you're this nomadic soul that we're lucky enough to have found in one place for 25 minutes, for an hour to talk to. Thank you for doing this. We'll be watching your continued progress. I hope that Artem can come to Canada so we see you here in North America as well. But stay in touch in the meantime.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me and hearing my stories and this other stories. And yeah, let's hope we all meet one day.
Indeed. Take care of yourself.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Arghavan is an artist, author, singer. She was the UN ambassador for women in Sweden from 2014 to 2019. Her latest project is called Artem, and we reached Arghavan in Stockholm, Sweden today. All right. That's full time for Roqe for today. Thank you to Arghavan, to Kimia Yousefi, and to the Roqe gang. Listen, if you want to check out any of our previous episodes or all that we've been up to, our list of guests, and our patrons page, and where you can support us, roqemedia.com is the place to go. roqemedia.com is our website. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together. Producer Susan, Ponta the artist, Thoughtful Nagin, the fabulous Keon, Savvy Roham, Aray Merdad, Master Mohammed, Chef Haas, Captain Reva, and Groovy Shaya, Captain Reza. Thank you to all of you out there supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you've not done so already. Find me on Instagram at Jian Ghomeshi. Mizun Bashi.